Hey everybody, I'm Cinnamon Cooney, your Art Sherpa, and today we are painting Mount Fuji. My job today is going to be explaining every step of this, showing you every process that I use to make it so you can create it at home. Part of that job is with my partner and husband, John. Say hi, John.
Hi, guys.
He tracks me with our cameras and reads your questions so that you can totally be part of the show, which we love that part. I'm super excited for today's painting, and I'm kind of ready to just hop on in. Is everybody ready to hop on in?
Absolutely.
Okay, if you're brand new here, I got to do the thing. Down in the description below is some important information. It's the materials, it's going to be the brushes I use, and it is the link to the traceable because listen, we don't always start painting with drawing as a skill. Drawing is something that we might be developing over time. So I do include the traceables, and no, it's not cheating. This is a one-hoop painting, so this should be very beginner friendly. I'm so about this. You can see our gorgeous Fuji, Mount Fuji, sitting right here. There's actually, even though this painting seems very colorful, there's not a lot of colors in this that I made this with. I'm going to put this aside over here, and I've got myself a nice ampersand gesso board panel because they sent me a bunch and I really am loving these. But you can paint on any surface that's for acrylic paint, so don't feel limited by the materials I'm using. You be sure and use what you have. I'm just being transparent and let you know what I'm using, so if you want those exact things, you can get them. Now we have some wishes on today's canvas. The first wish is going to be a wish to, I am totally okay. Callie Black's family and friends. We lost Callie. She's a great YouTuber and a sweet person, and I just hope that their family has all the love and support that they need, and I hope that her friends are doing okay, and gosh, we just miss her.
Yeah.
Just a bunch.
And we're going to paint today.
Yes. Yes. And she would be totally telling me to buck up and
Yep.
put my smile on because she was a total light worker, that Callie. Compassion for depression. So we had a bunch of requests in response to the crow painting that I just did, where I shared in the community tab some stuff. And I just want to say that, you know, the wish is compassion for people going through depression. This is an illness and we should have compassion for this. And certainly more treatment and understanding in the medical community. We have love to Sarah. She was being a mentor and an angel to a baby squirrel cruiser, and he didn't make it, but he had a lot of goodness before he left. And then happy 90th birthday, 90 years young, to Robin's mom. She's going through some senile dementia, and we're wishing her comfort and joy, and also in the world compassion and understanding for that. Now I'm ready to talk about the materials and paint. Are you guys ready?
Absolutely.
Okay. I'm going to get me a palette knife. My palette knife right now is really dirty because I've been using it all week. And I'm going to show you my little secret weapon here. So this is Gloss Glazing Liquid by Golden. Now, this is actually a slow drying extender, and it also lets you glaze. It doesn't have the limitations of retarders where you can only do specific amounts. I really love it. I'm going to put some right here so that when I mix my paint, it doesn't dry out quite as fast. I'm going to learn how to open that cap though in the studio. I can't mess up here. If I were to use something like this, which is a fantastic retarder, I can only use a small amount in relationship to my paint, or the paint won't dry because it's so effective. I'm going to mix my phthalo blue and phthalo green together with my palette knife. I'm going to be using a lot of this color through the painting, and what I'm actually making is phthalo turquoise. You can buy phthalo turquoise in the tube, and I mix it at about a 1-to-1 ratio. You want this to be very, very aqua, very, that sort of ice blue, that sort of turquoise, so that the warmth of this particular pink really pops against it. It lets us do a lot with the color. And then we get the great branch color when we mix that in with the magenta. So you can see I'm just incorporating that evenly with my palette knife. And I have my white right here to get into that. I'm going to wipe off my palette knife, which obviously I have not been doing before. And I'm going to say about 4 inches up my canvas, right? 4.25 inches. I'm going to start this interesting little band of like white paint that I'm going to put down first. This is really going to help me with my fade. And to do that, I think I'm going to use a number 30 Ruby Satin Bright. It's just a nice big wide brush for acrylic painting. And a bright just means that the filaments are not so long. So they're a little stiffer, a little firmer. And I'm going to get just a little water on my brush, and I'm going to flip my brush as I pull it from the paint. Notice I'm not going into the middle of that paint plop. I'm not doing that at all. And I'm getting that nice and flowing. So it's not like a lake, it's not like a watercolor. I'm just thinning the paint a bit, and there's a whole reason that I'm doing this. I'm going to be taking a white band of this paint, and I'm going to need to blend out my watercolor words here a little bit so that they vanish into this effect. And you may need to do that as well. If you use chalk or watercolor, you may need to be blending it in. I'm going to get a little bit more. This trick I'm doing is going to allow me working into this white. If you remember Bob Ross at all, he used to do this liquid white on his canvas first. And this is sort of the acrylic version of that trick. Now, right about the mid spot of the canvas, what I'm going to do is I'm going to get just a little of my phthalo turquoise on my brush, and I mix it right into the white. And I'm going to come right here above where I have my little band, and I'm taking it up the canvas, kind of getting the pigment off my brush. And then I go back and forth. Watch this cool trick. I'm going to come down into that wet white paint, and I'm going to get a beautiful fade right here. Can you guys see that? Isn't that fantastic?
I've turned the cameras down a little bit.
Oh, because they're having a little trouble seeing the aqua?
Well, no, so what will happen is they can see the aqua fade here really, really well, but I'm going to turn the brightness back up so that it's back to normal once you've done a little bit of this, because I've brought it down so that the whites aren't as hot in this close up.
Okay.
And then once you get that back on, I'll bring them back up to normal.
Oh, that's fantastic. I appreciate that. Thank you so much. So I added another slightly darker color right here as I'm coming up, and I might softly smooth across my canvas so that my lines are soft, right? I don't want any hard lines on this particular one. Now here's a little trick. I could try to get this brush completely clean, but I'm going to go ahead and grab another big boy. This is a 26 in the Ruby Satin, and I'm going to come back with my white right here and get that all going again. You guys see that? So I'm getting the paint wet again. I'm blending it up into what I had, making sure this is nice and thickly coated and wet. Here we go. Bringing it up, blending it up. And I'm going to flip this over. And I'm going to come from the bottom side now, a little bit darker in my paint with this nice aqua. It's still adding white to it, so it's still a bright aqua. And I'm going to blend very straight brush strokes back and forth because this is where the water is. Dip in the water, grab some more paint, and soften it into this mid space here. Make it very smooth across. I'm going to take the extra pigment out and I'm going to come right into my white and just blend this in. And this is going to help give us a little more water, the fog effect that we're going to have, and the nice little faded ombre between these two spots. It's a crazy helpful trick, especially if you're new to blending, because it gives you a double space to make sure that you have your, look at that, those little words out, your light painting. So hopefully you guys saw that. I'm going to check it. Okay, I've got a very, very nice water level now. And I'm just making sure that I'm bringing this up to where the bottom of my mountain will be and my mist will start. See how we did that?
Yeah.
So that was this crazy thing I did here, and I thought it was super helpful. Now on the water in the top, go ahead and finish with your darker turquoise. So I just want my darkest part of my sky up top, so you can see I'm loading. And what do? I flip my brush to make sure I'm loaded on both sides of my bristles.
And if you give me just a minute there, if you come over, I think that we're having a little buffering when I'm going to reset here while you're blending.
Okay.
So
you reset while I'm blending.
While you're blending. So we're going to have a magic blending reset. Hold on a second here. All right.
Are you ready?
It's streaming back up again. It looks like it may have fixed it.
I hope so, because I'm really having a good time and I would like it very much to be fixed. I grabbed a little bit of white.
I think that anything that happens today I probably can take care of. It's looking like we're it's the weekend, so a
lot of traffic.
There's
I
a lot of
imagine
traffic.
on YouTube.
Yeah. So as long as I have a chance to reset it, like it's going kind of wonky today.
Now I'm going to darken this down below. I'm going to get a little more of my phthalo turquoise on my brush. But it's got the white pigment in it, and I'll add a little bit more so it doesn't get too bright. And I'm going to come from the bottom. Alright, here we go. I grabbed a little bit of water to improve the flow. And I'm just blending this back up. Added a little white to it to make sure it was really nice. There we go. Now I'm going to go real smooth with my brush stroke. And right there, I'm having a little trouble. Can you guys see that in my seam?
Yeah.
So I'm going to rinse this out, and I'm going to take my backup brush. I'm going to get some white on it. I'm going to come right just at this space, loading it with that soft blue. Alright, here we go. And now, even I think if you were doing like an economy canvas that was resisting your paint, I'm just getting it wet and cleaning it a bit so I can blend it. You should be able to get a very fluid little blend from this whole thing. Alright. And it's really important down at the bottom that your brush strokes be horizontal like this and not go at a diagonal like an X. Okay, guys? Because that will ruin the look of your water and also kind of diminish the look of the painting. So what you want is a darkness at the top that gets lighter and lighter to the center band, and then you want a darkness at the bottom that gets lighter to the center band, and you want to make sure that these brush strokes are back and forth horizontal as you can make them. So I know I was like cooking along there, and it's an interesting thing, but sometimes when you're trying to create that light skyline, nothing like painting right into a little bit of white to do that, especially if you're using a powerful color like phthalo. It's an interesting effect. Sippy Sippy and Mr. Froggy Froggy. Happy Happy.
Oh, sorry. Turn my microphone back on. So I was slightly distracted by the stream.
The stream that went out. I'm going to hair dry. You want to talk to them real quick?
Sure.
Excellent. I'm going to dry this canvas so I can put in my Mount Fuji.
So, am I there? Yeah, there. Okay, so, gosh, wow, I was a little distracted there because making sure the stream is okay, and it looks like it is okay. Everything seems to be back to normal, and looks like everything's going good. So, don't forget, check in the link in the description down below. I really appreciate all you guys coming and hanging out with us today. It's it's really just awesome. Give me the little thing back on here. There you go, Cinnamon.
Are we back?
Yes.
All right. Now I'm going to use my other canvas to. Oh wait, I think this is still tacky. I'm going to hit it one more time with the hairdryer because
Okay.
it's not ready to take chalk.
All right.
Sometimes you'll feel your painting if it's still a little sticky. It's not ready to take chalk. It is not.
So yeah, when you're using your hair dryer, make sure you use them on the lowest heat setting. Because sometimes the heat can affect the paint, and generally that's only in lower cost or student grade paints that you can see a little bit of color shift sometimes from heat. So it's best just use it in air.
Yeah, and you know what? I'm going to lighten up my sky up top here a bit because it's going to help my mountain show.
Oh yeah.
So I want to make sure I do that. I'm going to get my big brush again, and I'm going to lighten it up just a shade. That'll happen. Sometimes you'll paint something a darker shade than you meant to. So I'm going to get a little of my phthalo turquoise on my brush, but a lot more of my white than I initially had. And yeah, there we go. That's just a little bit better. So just making sure we still have that ombre, but that it's just a little bit lighter up top here to help our Mount Fuji rise up into the sky. So it's really interesting. There's a very specific number of views for the mountain, and I really enjoy the lakeside view. So that was like my favorite view, so that's why I picked that view. There's some really good different vantages. I've never been there, but I read like everybody's travel blog. I was like, if I was to go, what would it be like? Right? And so that was super helpful. There we go. There we go. And yet we still have our nice middle. And just a smidge. Nice and ombre at the top. So my studio is very dry. Sometimes these conditions might happen to you too. And it will struggle. My brush will struggle. It does a thing called drag. I don't know if you guys have ever had this experience, but if your paint is tacking too quickly and it pulls across the canvas, that's drag.
Gotcha.
So it's a pesty problem that we artists have to deal with. And I came back with just a soft, wet brush to sort of soften this here. Can you see I'm softening that a bit?
Mm-hmm.
Just making sure so I don't have to work so hard when I put my mist in. Because I don't want to work hard for my mist. Now I'm going to dry it again.
All right.
Because I lightened it a shade.
So, let's see here. I think Maureen was just asking how far away from the paint is she keeping the hairdryer? And I think far enough away to make sure that it's not getting any heat. It's not getting hot.
Yep.
So.
I feel like I'm still. This is the hardest sky ever. Well, what it is when you have two paintings next to each other and you're matching them up, that is always going to be a titch challenging. But what I say is don't give up. This is what we call studio resiliency. And what that basically means is you're live, things are going wrong, but you've been at the easel enough to have faced a few challenges. And so you'll continue on. There we go. Just making sure that this is light enough coming up. Oh my goodness. It's been a day, hasn't it, guys?
It has.
Well, it may be one hoop for you, but it was two hoop for me today. And what I'm just trying to do here is just make sure that as my paint dries, right, that I've got a light enough aspect. And so I'm just really making sure that I'm working my white like you do.
Like you do.
Like I am doing right now. Oh my goodness. and happily painting back and forth. The good news is when you get a lot of coats of paint, makes your canvas look really nice.
Yeah, it does.
So that's always good. And then the other challenge I'm facing is this is drying almost even with the slow dry in here as fast as I'm putting it on today. So it lets you know that my conditions have changed in my studio to very hot and dry ones. Dryness being the key.
It's pretty dry
element.
outside today.
Yeah, it is. Usually Houston's a little more humid.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're in a very dry climate, you and I are sharing some challenges right now. And what I'm going through, maybe what you're going through. But we don't stop painting. We don't give up. We just work it out. This is going to be whatever it is, guys. I'm keeping it. Keeping it, keeping it, keeping it. Right? So whatever it ends up being, that's what I'm keeping. No more, because I got to paint this mountain in. All right. Luckily, this is most of what the painting is about, is this background, which is why I'm futzing with it this much.
You've just been fading.
Yeah, I'm just making sure that that's real good. And that also that these values are going to transition well enough, because if it's not light enough above the mountain won't show. So that's going to be a very important part of this composition. Why am I struggling with this and going on with this? It's because the mountain needs to be light at the top so that you can put that beautiful dark kind of implied shadow there. Everybody
really strange.
Cross your fingers. Wish me luck. I'm going to sip my coffee, set my mindset, and I'm going to try hair drying again. And John's going to talk about hot air.
So, I will say, in a link in the description down below, you can find a link to the traceables, a reference photo, our website, all that kind of stuff. And we can, just generally find all that kind of cool stuff there. Oh my gosh, there's so many people here. Wow. I will say thank you to all of the people who are coming and hanging out with us. Because, this is really something kind of awesome that we all get together and hang out and do this and watch Cinnamon do silly hair drying things. Watch, I'll mess with her. See, now she's all like, oh, I guess she's actually doing stuff. I thought it would mess with her, but it didn't. She just is.
All right, here's what I was trying to get anyways. I want to make sure that the top of my little dude, right, I'm going to just use some yellow chalk and mark the top of my mountain so that I can sit there and we're like, alrighty, the mountain that I have is going to be just off center. So if center's here, we're just going to come over a little bit. I'm going to put the top right there. I'm using chalkboard chalk, and it's just that Crayola colored one. So the first thing is to get the sweep of the mountain. Well, it's not a mountain, it's a volcano. But isn't it a volcano? I believe it is. I just don't think it's active.
I think that's true, but gosh, I don't know.
So I'm going to come sweep down. If there's the halfway point of the canvas, I'm going to sweep down below the halfway point. And I'm going to sweep up. I like to have little bumps on my mountain, but I'll probably do that more with paint. And I'm going to sweep off at a slightly higher angle off to the right. So that's just finding an angle. All right. Oh my goodness. Do we have enough of a mountain here? I hope so. Because that's what we're going to be trying to create, is that lovely mountain. Now I also have the sun here, and I used this tape to help me with my circle. The tape is 4.5 inches in diameter. If you're really good at freehanding a circle, go ahead and do that. I'm not as good. I like to make sure that the sun is coming to the peak of my mountain.
And about how far from the top is that?
This is, I will measure that for you. This is 5 centimeters, 2 inches from the top. And the top of the mountain is just at 4.5 And it like varies between the 4.5 and 12 centimeter range as it slopes down. So that's where we're at with that. And now, thankfully, it can get easier. Now I'm going to get one of my fabulous favorite little scumbly brushes. I'm going to get a number 8 Cambridge Bright. I'm going to get this wet, drag off the extra water. And the first part that I'm going to get is just my turquoise, my pure turquoise. And I'm going to paint this on here. Just bringing this down. I'm going to come up to the top of my mountain. I'm going to take my little brush. I'm going to make sure my mountain has some bumps. I'll come with a clean edge brush like one of my Sherpa brushes in a second. But I've got a lot of scumbly blending to do.
Now, it would seem that Mount Fuji is a dormant volcano.
A dormant volcano. Okay, so research is true.
It has not erupted since 1707.
Well, let's wish that it doesn't, because that seems like that would not be good for people living near there, having had family near Mount St. Helens, I would say.
I think that any mountain that is oozing lava is probably not like that's like a warning sign of like, don't be near me.
Don't be near me. Don't do it.
Somehow I think that there is a Samoan god, Maui, saying, hey, this is a warning sign.
So I'm getting too much streak, which will be great when I come to do my snow, but I'm not really liking this for right now. So I'm going to switch out. I always feel like you can do that, and I'm going to get a smoother brush. I'm going to get a number 8 Ruby Satin. Dip in and then just continue on. Now what's nice about this and my brushes have good edge, right? So when I come up my mountain, on the edge of my brush, see how I'm dragging the bristles, leading with the right side of the brush on the tip of them. And then I can turn it to this corner to get this crisp edge and this crisp edge. And then come back down. And I will just go ahead and... Oh, isn't that smoothing out nicely? Like, I like that a lot better.
Oh, yeah.
So this was a rougher canvas, and I used a rougher brush with it, but this is a smoother surface. The board is a smoother surface, and so I'm using a smoother brush with it. Now, as I'm coming down the mountain, I'm going to want to come into my white paint, and I'm going to smooth this up. This is this fade. When the mountain is above the cloud banks, it fades in almost invisibly. It's the coolest thing. Grabbing more white. Okay, I'm just fading that in and blending those two together. Here we go. Just softening that and blending those together. Coming this side a little bit. Just blending that together. And then where I have hard edges, I will come through and I will soften those. First I have to get this fading of the mountain kind of addressed here. And I have to say, John, my brush is dragging today.
Yeah. It's very humid
in
here. It is very humid. I mean, it's very dry.
It is just
It's super
wow.
dragging.
So my heart goes out to everybody in a very arid climate or in arid conditions.
All those in Tucson.
You guys, I'm like ready to actually get the actual retarder into this paint. That's too white. So what I'm trying to do is just create a very, very light aqua. Very, very light ice blue. And then I'm going to come back with my turquoise here. I'm going to load up with some water to improve the flow since we're having such a dry day. I'm going to just hit that second coat. See that second coat going down?
Yeah.
Gonna make that second coat go down. Super fun day.
Looks really cool.
Does it?
Yeah.
I'm so glad. I really enjoyed doing this painting, but it was on a more humid day. As you can see. In fact, I'm gonna like go into my gloss glazing liquid, which has slowed down the drying time of my paint.
Just to help that, huh?
Yeah, look, this is gonna help my blend here. You guys see how that's helping my blend?
Oh, yeah. It's like...
Oh, the struggle is real. I don't have anybody sending me products that I just shill on you guys. Well, I mean, I do. We just don't do it.
Hey, we shill our own product sometimes.
We do shill our own product, but I like them. If I'm showing you a product on the show, it's because I like it for some reason, or I find it to be a necessity in my own personal studio.
That's true.
And that is why I have golden glazing liquid, is because it is a necessity in my own personal studio.
It's good stuff.
It is. They don't like...
Other than one tube of glazing liquid that was in a desperation gift at a trade show.
I had to beg a whole day for.
Yeah, I don't think that we've bought all of our material.
Yeah.
So
truly we did. I'm going to come here and the brush is just a little bit wet, and I'm just going to soften this out. See how I'm softening it out with just a wet brush? So this is, now I have a nice blend. It was just, I had to find another way to get it. Sometimes when you're painting, right, you're going to have to find another way to get that transition that you're looking to get. Now here's the good news. All right, I'm going to go back to my scruffly brush, but now it's going to be super fun. And I have some zinc in there. If you don't have zinc, you can just use the titanium white. I just like to have some control over the transparency. This is a very transparent white, and this is a very kind of this is a very opaque white, and this is very transparent. So the titanium is opaque, the zinc is transparent, and also the zinc has a slight kind of like luminous quality to it. So it's very, very nice for things like mist and clouds. So I'm loading up now again the number 8 Cambridge. I'm coming on the corner of the brush, and I'm gonna scumble me some foggy bits coming up my mountain. See how I'm doing? Scumbling up some foggy bits. So this is just a wiggle, and my patterns will be up and down, and it's good that it's currently wet because that lets me softly transition here. There we go, just going along. And so what I'm trying to do is not make a uniform little set of swirls, just working the corner of my brush. I just loaded back up with zinc, and that'll put some more pigment on there and make that show. So see how we're just making sure we want layers of mist, and we want bits of it. Just wiggle, 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 wiggle the brush. But you don't want to make clear and obvious like brush strokes. That's a lot of what you're doing, is you're hiding your brush stroke. I'm rinsing out. I am wiping off. I am getting some more zinc. And I am continuing my fog. Like you do. So I'm just putting this here. So it's barely a shade, but what makes it foggy is the value and the texture gives the feeling of it being fog, because it's just a shade lighter than the mountain, if that makes sense. And so that's what fog essentially does, is it starts to hide things in the distance, soften those edges. See, see how I'm letting the hairs just sort of like drag?
Yeah.
Now I'm going to come right here in the center, and I'm going to just really work this. Look at this. Just really work that fog. Up, and then I go down a little bit, and then maybe I go a different direction and come back up. When I get to the water, I go back and forth, and then I work that edge. Alright, a little more zinc. almost actually done with our fog bank. And the trick is, again, try not to repeat shapes. Try not to just make circles. Try to be like, people don't know me. You don't know what I'll do. I could do anything. I could do anything. I could be Will Smith and suddenly make a YouTube channel out of the blue for no reason, but be really good at it.
Because he's awesome.
Make the Sherpa super jealous. I'm so jealous of his YouTubery. It's so good. Sorry, I was just watching like right before the show. No, that is not why I was late. like this morning. All right. So see how we're starting to get fog? And now when we go into our titanium, super powerful stuff this.
Did anyone else hear that admission of guilt, or was it just me?
No. There's no admission of guilt. There's no admission of guilt. There's never an admission of guilt. See how I'm just working the corner of this brush? Look at how that brush is angled right here. And if it gets a little worn out, I can switch over to the other side. Because you don't know what I'll do. Hopefully you do know what I'll do. See, I'm pressing it up and letting those little bristles drag out. If you're a little brush, don't worry, you can totally do this. This is not, you know, an age-specific technique. Right? And you'll be like, at the art show going, yeah, I can do distant fog and cloud banks. That's how cool I am. I'm just letting that go. And then we're just softening underneath. Right? Just softening underneath. Back and forth. Now, one of my tricks is going to be to use my T-square here. Because what you do need, even though it's fogged and even though it's distant, you could also use tape, or if you're very good at straight lines. I'm going to come right here and make sure that I have a nice straight line.
Now, which brush is that you got there?
This is a number 8 Cambridge, and the Cambridges are a mix of synthetic and bristle filaments. You could use just a bristle brush, and you can just use the brush you have in your hand. I just like the scumble this gives me. And so I pick it a lot. See, I'm just like using this, and that way I've got that nice little line there happening.
Now, a scumble is a that's an actual technical term, is that right?
Yeah, it's a type of dry kind of rubbing and randomizing on your canvas.
That's what you're doing there. You're scumbling.
I'm just scumbling. Like I'm gonna make some little fluff banks coming up because I'm creative. Here in the center where they might show. Okay, there, see that? Just because I'm creative. You don't have to be that creative. You just get a cloud bank you're happy with. Now that I can see, right, that I'm going to go ahead and get my zinc again. And I'm going to soften this. But you guys see how we can imperceptibly see our little bank line?
Oh, yeah.
This will make a big deal visually, and it'll keep you from making the one mistake that'll throw off your whole painting. And I'm softening this edge of the water coming to the cloud bank with my zinc. Just going back and forth. See how I've softened it?
Yeah.
But you can totally see that edge. And I can take just a titch of my phthalo turquoise here that I mixed up myself or bought. And look at that.
Now the big thing here is that line, the horizon line, makes everything look level.
It makes everything look level. Even when I kind of hide it, even when I camouflage it, it's going to be what makes this edge of the mountain seem really true.
It anchors it.
Anchors it. Exactly. You can still come back and like soften out some of it.
But its consistency across that front is where it's
at. And especially right here in that center. So see, even if I soften it, it's still there. Look at me softening it and having it still be there. And I'll leave that actual bit so when I put the little branches and the line comes out, it'll be like, oh, it's there. That's so crazy how that worked. And you'll be like, yeah, I know. It's very crazy. Little phthalo turquoise, little zinc white. Little phthalo turquoise, little zinc white. Softening this back distance. Back in the distance.
I forgot one of our own moderators, Kim, got to meet Mr. Smith.
Oh my gosh, that's right, she did. And she got to be like an extra in his movie and everything. She's right. Super cool.
She's like...
And I think she gave him some art. So, way to work that, right?
Yeah.
All right.
So that was pretty cool.
That is pretty cool. Now, I'm going to come in with, I think, my number 8 Ruby Satin. And I'm going to get some just white on here. And I'm going to come to the top of my mountain. And I do an interesting thing. I leave a dark little bit of that blue outline. Can you guys see how I'm doing that? Yeah. And I may have to come back and put it in after the sun. It just depends. And I'm going to just pull down in a dry brush some snow. See, I just drag it down and let the brush finish the snow. Yeah. And so when I'm on the left-hand side, I'm curving it to the left. Right? And then when I'm on the right-hand side, I'm curving it to the right. And then as I come down the center, I'll just start to gentle and soften that curve and pull that down straight. And that's how I create the shape of the snow. And then up top, I'm going to strengthen that. Just let that skip over the top. Here we go. Here we go. And see how, you know, how much snow have you got on your mountain? All right. So once I have that in, you guys have picture in picture, and I have all my references in, so I'm okay. I'm going to make sure I take off my extra chalk. And I'm going to show you how you do your sun, right? Which is pretty fun. Now, once we do the sun and the water reflection, that actually is a finished painting. If you don't want to do the cherry blossoms, you can be done there. If you're like, wow, I nailed it, and you're like, I can't go any further, I don't know what will happen, you can totally stay there. I highly recommend you definitely come in and drop some cherry branches on there with me, but, you know, free world. The most beat up cadmium yellow tube on the planet. So now I have cad yellow, quinacridone magenta, zinc white, titanium white, a mix of phthalo blue and phthalo green. And the first color I'm going to do is I'm going to take a little smidge of my yellow in to my quinacridone. And the reason that I do this on this painting, besides the fact that this is the sun and so therefore should be slightly warmer, brighter in nature than the cherry blossoms, is it's going to help it really, really show against that background. I'm going to get a little titanium white under here. Just a little bit. And let's paint in our sun. The outer edge of our sun is the darkest, and then as we come towards the center of this particular sun, we do kind of like a nice lightning effect. And that takes a couple layers. Okay, guys? So just know that you're like a couple layers in. There is not a right or wrong to your sun. If your sun came out more orange, fine. That's okay. If your sun came out more pink, that's also okay. If you went, no, I can't do this weird pink-orange sun, and you made it red, that's also okay and a very accepted traditional representation. So my big thing is I'm just trying to keep a nice crisp line here. This is based on these types of prints where the block work is so clean and the design lines are so clean. And so I was very inspired by that and really tried to create a feeling of that in this canvas, if at all possible. So see, I'm just remixing that first yellow into the pink, that first warm color, right? And I'm making sure my outer edge is crisp and clean. Notice I'm coming to the edge with my brush. I'm using the edge of my brush to create this crisp edge on my sun. How we do?
Now, you like to use a round template to help you get those perfectly round circles.
Yeah, there's a trick. I have a trick. I'll show it in an upcoming video on how to freehand a perfect circle. But we don't have the setup here to go from table to easel fast enough and enough room for me to twirl it. But that's basically what it is you use your hand as a fulcrum and you twirl the canvas and your pinky does this drag guide and then you have a nice circle. But if you don't have that option, then what do? You use a template. You know, if it's good enough for street artists, trust me, it's good enough for us. Those guys are tough enough.
I thought you had to have 9-inch nails in order to make a perfect circle.
Oh, you're very funny. All right, as we're coming towards the center, I'm going to be adding just a little more yellow into my mix and also some more white. Right, so we're coming towards the center, but we're warming up this mix. And so I'm going to just come right here. And we're going to just, this is first layer. Remember I said 2 layers, guys. We got a couple layers we're going to have to do to get this sun to that beautiful blended effect that I have in the design. But you can do this. It's totally doable. If you're very, very new to acrylic painting, something you might not know is acrylic paint doesn't blend once it's dry. Right? So if you've watched a lot of oil videos, this is a little different than that. But we have a lot of ways that we blend our acrylic paint. One, we work quickly and work wet into wet. We can slow the drying time down with retarder, or we can use like a dry brushing. I'm adding more white to lighten the value for the center of the sun. Right?
Yeah.
So now I have some step transitions here. And I can let this dry for a second. And you're going to want yours to be completely dry before you do any of your blending methods, because you want the paint underneath to be sticking and showing through. But we have this sort of basically in. And while we have this basically in, we can do our reflection. So I've got a little of my yellow on my brush. I'm going to pull out a little of my pink. So it's the darker pink, right? But I do want it to be similar to the sun. And I'm actually going to get zinc this time, interestingly enough, instead of titanium white. And I'm going to come here, even lighter than this. I wiped off a little of the extra excess pigment because I want a very, very light reflection. I'm going to come right here, see where that light is? And here's what. My first strokes are very small.
Well, let me get in there. There we go.
Right? And they're going to wander. I'm going to keep them very, very horizontal. But see how they're shorter back here? As this comes up, they'll get longer. And I'm going to wind this, think of like a snake or something that zigs and zags back and forth in its movement. Oftentimes here we like to say Jackie Chan. You got a Jackie Chan this line. Here we go. And I'm also using the toe of my brush. And can you see how I'm just feathering out this reflection? Toe of my brush. And that lets the line be fine and taper, doesn't it? Wiggle back forth here, and then as I'm coming down up front, I may move my canvas forward. A little more of our zinc. Right? Moving my canvas forward, I came to the edge, to these longer lines. I don't want them to get off my horizontal.
Are you using that number 8?
I am using a number 8 ruby satin.
Okay.
Just a bright. It's a ruby satin bright. Brushes come as a different shapes and sizes, and this one is a bright. It's a number 8, which is about a 1/2 inch wide. See how we're just softening that? Up there on the toe. See the little toe feather out?
Yeah.
Just the tip of the bristles, feathering it out. As I'm coming up towards the back, I'm going to get a lot more zinc on my brush. And I'll even move to the corner to improve the lightness of the stroke. Alright, so here we go. And you can see the zinc creates some different little values there, which implies rippling, which is nice, and its transparency helps blend. A little more zinc. There we go, right down the center. And then I like to get my titanium white I might even pick up just a smidge of the yellow, but just a smidge. Oh my goodness, you just barely want to dust with it. And I'm going to come towards the back and add this bright highlight coming down on the toe. Soft little toe, kind of towards the center. This is like a high highlight. See how it shows up so bright on the surface? There we go. Just a little bit of that brighter highlight down the center. I'm going to rinse out. And how I refine this, how I get that nice soft finish look, is I get a little of my turquoise on my brush and a bunch of my white. And I'm going to come here and feather back into it from the watercolor. This is a shade lighter than my background color. So soften back on the white of the brush. Just pull it right into your pink. You know what we're doing?
Yeah.
And it's going to soften that edge. Look at that edge soften up. A little more. Ooh, today is so dry. I know I keep saying it, but that's how dry it is. And add a little water to my brush. How dry was it? As dry as the Sherpa studio the other day. It's going to be a new joke. In our house, not in the world. I'm coming around this outside edge. Soften, soften, soften. And so the trick is letting that stroke taper. And come the other side and do the same thing real quick. Soften it, softening it, softening it. Here we go. We've softened that a lot, haven't we? I'm going to take my brush, dip in the water, pull out a little more of my blue so it's a darker color. And definitely, see, this is, now what I'm doing is I've got a little bit of the paint on my brush here. You can see that right there? And I'm just softly pulling it in. Look at that. Blending those two lines. Isn't that awesome? And I won't take this all the way back. And as I go further back, I lighten the pressure of my brush so it's barely touching the canvas. I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. And again, this is about how hard you're pushing. You can create softness by just lightening up your pressure on your brush. And again, also, I'm being very level. All right, here we go. Now, the sun, we're going to finish that back out. I'm going to actually even get into my cleaner water. I'm going to take a little of my yellow. Oh, I'm going to need a cleaner brush. Definitely cleaner brush. I'm going to get one of my cat's tongues. So this is a number 8 cat's tongue. You could use another Clean Bright. You could use a filbert. I'm going to get this wet. And I'm going to take a little of my yellow into my quinacridone and warm that up a good bit. Grab my zinc. And I'm going to come back and forth. I've got the hard edge already from the crisp brush, so I can get away with this. And I'm wiggling my cat's tongue back and forth. You could use the Cambridge, if you have one of those, or a bristle brush. But see how I'm softly, very carefully. I don't want to get that on my mountain. Soft. Just come around just as softly as you can. Don't lose your edge. Softly. Now I'm going to wipe off the extra paint. I'm going to grab a lot more zinc into it. I'm going to softly blend these two together. I'm just softly, softly blending it. So they're both sort of still wet. And then I've got a soft little back and forth brush stroke.
I have to say, this is one of my favorite paintings.
Really?
Yeah, because it's like and you know, I've never been to I've been to Japan, but only in and out of airports.
Right.
Right. So I've actually seen Japan. But the reason why this is very fond for me is that it also looks just like Mount Everest, which is the tallest mountain in Azeroth in the Kunlun summit.
Well, I just didn't even know we could go that way.
And it looks exactly like it.
So see how we're just softening this?
Yeah.
We're just softening this. You know, as we go, we can get a little more yellow in the mix right here. And come right in. And now you can start even getting into the titanium white that you have here in the center. Look at this. So we're just soft. See how it just softens?
They say it's not fair that I say they're all my favorites, but they kind of are.
You can tell for how often we sell them.
Never!
Never!
I have a hoard. I admit it.
Yeah, he owns his truth.
It's a collection.
It's a collection.
It's
so
legit.
I'm just softening this as we go. And then as we come towards the center, we're going to be able to take it more into the yellow. Right? That's him just softening that up. Making sure those lines are not so noticeable, blending it through. See how we're blending it through? Now as we come down the center, we're definitely getting a little more of our yellow on here. And we're just finding that brighter, brighter color. There we go. See how that's just a nice yellow, and then I'm just very lightly touching the brush. So very, very lightly touching the brush. Lots of ways to do this. Very, very lightly touching the brush. Alright. Just lightening it up. And getting more titanium white on here. A little more yellow. Getting that sun just nice and soft. And softening that up as we ombre into the center. Now I'm going to kind of wipe my brush. I'm going to get a little more of my titanium white into that mix. So see, I'm just right into that, and a little of my yellow. It's very light. And see, I'm just careful near the mountain, and if I have to come and put that edge back, I will. What I'm trying to do is just lighten this up towards the center.
Now, are you blending right there on the canvas?
Yeah, right here on the canvas.
Neil was like, are you blending on the canvas?
Yes, I am, and I'm putting out more white because my white has blue in it now, and that's going to be no good for this color mix. So let's see how we're doing. We're doing pretty good. We'll have to lighten the outer edge a bit, but we're doing pretty darn good.
Yeah.
So now I'm right in the center, and I'll just grab some white.
Oh, wow.
Right, and so we're just softening this up as we go. See, just right on here. So what's underneath is picking up into it, right? It's lightening it up. And again, I'll put that line back if I need to. Now what I think I'm going to do is I want to lighten my outer ring up. Coming back. So I've rinsed out my cat's tongue. And I'm going to go ahead and take just the last of my zinc, where I've got the pink on it, but it's like the rosy pink, so there's just a smidge of yellow in it, right? And I need it to be lighter than what I have. Oh, that's perfect. Look at this.
So it's okay to blend right there on the canvas then.
Oh, of course. Yeah, you can blend on the canvas. You can blend on the palette, right?
You can blend on your brush.
You can blend on your brush.
I just made that up. I didn't know if you could or not. But I was just, you know, I was in the flow of agreement.
Right? You can catch my little guys there, John. It snucks in.
Oh, your live studio audience?
Yes.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, they're all shuffling off now.
I love you, little pumpkins. But see how that's all soft now? So here we are, even on a dry, dry day, right? And we're able to soften our sun, right? I'll just grab my little white here, and I'm just going to come over with my zinc. Just soften that up again. The trick is I want the center and the outer edges to, but it still needs to stand out. Making sure that I got a good round sun. Sun needs to be round. I'm going to check my camera, because that's like me stepping back. When I check my camera, you guys step back and look at your canvas. And just evaluate if you're happy with the blend that you have on your sun. Is it feeling good? Do you feel like it's light enough in the center? It should be fairly bright, but are you liking it?
Blend. See, you can see over there. And then zoom.
Now, as you can see right now at this stage, right, you could just mist and reflect on your water and have just a painting and have it be very clear, clean, very minimalist, and very simple.
Mm-hmm.
But that's not what we do.
No. Now we have to add all of the blossoming trees.
Yeah.
And the panda.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know.
We need to add some stuff. And so how I do my branches, I take my number 4 round from my red handle line. I'm going to get the brush wet. And I'm going to thin with water. This is so that the flow from my brush is improved, okay? I usually have a mister over here, but of course on the driest day I've had so far in my studio in a year, I don't have it with me. I'm going to add some of my quinacridone to that mix. There we go. And that's going to make a dark color. In the purposes of our painting, we didn't use any actual black. This is what we used. And that's what keeps it so bright and so cheerful. Now, you can absolutely, if you have trouble with branches, you can use the traceable, or you can even come in and chalk. So I can chalk a branch that comes towards the right and slightly upward, stops about an inch out, comes up another couple of inches towards the left corner, and then kind of angles this way towards the right, a little bend in, and a little bend in. And that is the basic shape of that cherry blossom branch. And so I'm going to dip my brush in water, and I'll paint in first this branch. It's going to be thickest here at the base. I've got it about an inch thick at the base, right? I'm going to come up with my brush at first and just get it painted in, and I will thicken it once it's laid in, right? Now, as I'm coming out, I am lightening my brush pressure, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to get right on the hair of my brush and make that little feathered tip of that branch. I'm going to come back, stroking downward to thicken on this side, come down here, I'll harden those angles, and join up with the thickness of my branch. So see, it's thick at the back, it's tapering at the front. And that is done by how hard I'm pressing on my brush and the amount of flow that I have from the paint to the canvas. Now I'm going to put in a couple branches. Some of them will have to go back in after I paint the flowers in. But I know that I've got a little branch that kind of comes down here. It's going to come right off of here. And goes right. And then it breaks up a little bit. And then it should break downward a bit, because cherry blossoms will often break downward. And then you can kind of taper off a little bit there. So that's a pretty good branch. Now I'm going to make the next one go up a bit. It's going to come right out here. Look how I curve that stroke out like a comma towards the right. But then I'll bend it up a little bit and taper that out.
No.
There you go.
Gloria was asking.
Gloria, happy to answer any questions Gloria has.
Where do you get that fabulous pointy chalk?
This is Kids Chalk by Crayola in colors, and I sharpen it in my universal sharpener by Faber-Castell.
That's how you get the fabulous pointy chalk.
That's how you get fabulous pointy chalk.
You're all like, this is where my brush... Oh, wait, you want the chalk. Oh, yeah.
Now I'm going to take a little branch out here and I'm going to curve it back and come up. Now the trick with cherry blossom branches is you want to be kind of crookedy.
Are you using a round brush?
I am using my Art Sherpa round number 4. It has a really beautiful point on it.
Yeah, that was the next question is, what are you using?
And it just is an extraordinary detail brush for acrylic paint because it's made for heavy body paint. A lot of the paint out there is not made for heavy body paint.
You mean brushes?
Brushes.
The paint's not made for paint.
Sometimes I feel like the paint isn't made for paint too. I may not have misspoken.
There are those days for sure.
So we're just going to, make sure we have some little branches that come off here. But we'll have to put a lot back, right, once we put the flowers in. So we're going to let that dry a bit. If you need to, adjust it and add another coat of paint, you can. Remember, the light and dark actually helps add to the cherry blossomness of it. Now we got a branch that's coming here. And I will do the same thing. I'm going to talk you through what it is. So let's say this branch comes from a little bit above the left-hand corner and curves inward toward the right. But then it makes a radical bend back up this way and is going to travel just a bit above the line of the mountain. I have a branch that arcs up and comes over here. I got another one that arcs here. So let's put the main base one in, and it's a similar thing. I'm going to come in on the stroke and follow the road map of my main branch, lightening my stroke as I come above the horizon line. Isn't that beautiful? It's a little bit like calligraphy. And I'll thicken the branch at the base like you do, like I do anyways, and you do now, like we all do now.
Like anyone can do.
Like anyone can do. And even if it's hard today, realize that as you practice and as you paint, it gets easier and easier.
I was totally impressed because the other day, and I forget her name, but I saw a Sherpette who painted with her mouth.
Just fantastic.
That was just like, and her cards are in her ATC swap, which I thought was awesome.
Really awesome. I'm coming up along here, and I'll finish this out. And you can see it's just lightening my little branch fellow here, and then I might break one off over here, like you do. And a little one can wander up over here. Because what we're holding clusters of these blossoms, right? And we need to take care of them. I'm going to break one up here. There we go. So we've got little breaks here. Maybe a little branch can break over here. And see, that's just about light pressure. And as I go out, I just get ever light, ever light. Oh, kiss the canvas. Kissing the canvas with my light brush. And if you have heavy brush pressure, if you're pressing down too heavy on your brush through your whole body, though we'll show you an exercise sometime on how to lighten up, but I'll tell you verbally, it's about getting out a practice sheet of paper and just seeing how thick and thin you can make your lines. It's like a game, a little art game that you might have. All right, I don't know why I give one over there. Now I've got another little branch that's coming up here, and he's fabulous. He's my favorite branch because he comes up just above my fog line, and he arcs up towards the left, and he bends down left, and then he comes down kind of almost back right, and then shoots back out over this way. And that is like such a cherry blossom move right there. It really is. And I'm going to just paint him. Just letting my brush come along all the way out the branch. And I can come back, pressing as I'm dragging the branch and thickening it up. We're thickening up the branch. There we go. See how we make it all charity?
Yeah.
It's a very wonderful branch, capable of holding so much. There we go. Now, once I have those curves and those angles, I'm going to curve another little branch right out here. And it's going to curve down. And then we could have another little fellow that breaks from up here, comes out to the right, and then brings a couple little elegant branches down that way. So that's a lot, isn't it, of cherry blossom that we're peering through. Alright, so we have those in. We're going to rinse our blue out of there. And now we get to put in our blossoms, which is very fun and is my favorite part because I love the quinacridone mixes. I just think they're really great. And I'm going to sip my coffee and set my mind and imagine that I'm far away. My problems are gone. I'm just painting, sipping my froggy mug.
I'm gonna go to a faraway place where I'm just watching my wife paint on some paintings and just pushing some buttons and chatting with, I don't know, I have to say like 500 or 600 of my best artsy friends.
Your best artsy friends.
Yeah.
I'm going to grab some white here. I'm mixing just a little white into my pure magenta, because that's really going to help it show and improve the coverage. I've loaded this up on my round brush, and I'm going to just make little dabs of paint.
I gotta get up there. Oh, that's so much more.
Now these are like clouds. And again, I included them on the traceable, so if you're like, oh man, I really need to, you know, copy exactly that, you've got it. What I'll say is, sometimes they're in front of branches, sometimes they're behind. You know, like this could come down and in front of this little branch, couldn't it? These are just little dabs. And then as we come out the end, the dabs can be smaller and more delicate. You know, let's have a little, I think we forgot a little branch here, but we can always add it. I just dab this. Now, as I'm coming in front of the sun, I'm going to get a little bit of my mix with just a smidge of my turquoise color in it so that it deepens the leaves. This one actually is going to do an interesting thing. It's going to curve down like this, like almost following the arc of that sun. You can see that there. Close them up. I definitely want this, adding a little white to improve my coverage. I want these cherries, these are the petals, to come a little bit in front. And then we'll add some right here because we're right here by it. This will be kind of like almost like a fan. It is going to come down below the mountain line. So see, we did cover a branch, but that's okay because some of that sometimes they get put back. Let's just tap that out. And you know, as we bring them up, they could be more delicate. So it's about finding those little stories in your painting about the blossoms that are there. There'd be a little bit here. Now I think this one should have, right, a couple little ones going away, blowing from it. See how we're doing?
Yeah.
Super important. You gotta drop some cherry blossoms, otherwise no one will believe you meant it.
Drop the cherry blossoms.
Drop the cherry blossoms. The longest blend background in the history of blended backgrounds.
I feel like cherry blossoms need to be sprinkled more than dropped.
Sprinkled.
I sprinkled the cherry blossoms.
All right, let's take that there. See, I would just do some there.
Not quite the same punch
Now,
to
you
it.
can have like no branch and actually imply one that's foreshortened in front of you by covering this right in front of this little fellow. And then, and I think this is so fun, I'm going to bring a little of these down. Like you do. See how we're doing? And now you can see how it's just vibrant in front of that aqua color. Maybe there's a little one right here. Or here, coming off here. So I'm going to put a little bit here. Just little dabs with your brush. You could do it with the corner of a Bright. You do it with Q-tips. If Q-tips are your friend and you're like, I'm better at my Q-tips, go Q-tip. No one's going to tell. Trying to use my darkest color because I'm going to lighten it up in a minute. I'm going to come across the water, I think, over here. And let's tap in a little cloud.
Ooh, so Diana's daughter, her little brush, was thinking about using the Q-tip method to do these.
That would be the perfect method for a little brush to use to get these in.
She could totally use the Q-tip method of getting these.
Probably already be done if we'd done Q-tips.
Yeah.
Well, I didn't have the driest day ever.
Well, yeah, you know, it gives a slightly different effect. You know.
But, I mean, if you maybe ever had a day in your house where things were drying too fast, now you know what's happening.
Mm-hmm.
So we've got that nice little bunch down there. Let's make another little bunch here, and we're going to have kind of some of them come out here and some of them come out there, like in almost a horseshoe, but in a way that's not obvious. And we're going to make it not obvious by being interesting with our shapes. This is layer 1 of our branches. No panicking yet. Let's bring something in front here. Kind of coming off from the distance. Like they like to.
Now, what red are you using?
This is quinacridone magenta. I really like this particular magenta very much personally, crossing in front of this branch. And then I'm going to say that there's a nice little one way up here, kind of off canvas, that we can't really see.
It's introducing some drama.
It is. It's taking the drama. Where I want the drama. I'm
definitely.
just over drama in my life and ready for it to all be on the canvas. Because it just doesn't belong in my life.
You can see that little corner there has a lot of drama in it.
But of course I have a 13-year-old, so chances of that happening are really slim. Drama's probably still happening for me. All right. Because she's in a different life stage and doesn't feel the same as I do about drama. All right, here we go. Just a few. See how they're just sort of blowing towards each other? All right, let's come to the top of our canvas and finish up our upper tree, and then we get to put all of the yummy highlights that makes it go pop pink. All right. So a little bit right here maybe. Coming in. We definitely need someone to cross in front of this tree, don't we? Because we're creating layers and a story that's exiting our world in some way. Moving towards the edge of the branch over here. Now, the finishing touch this will be is once we get all the highlights in, you definitely are going to want to add some little branches back. Where you've got them, because that'll create the depth in the painting. It's like my first branches are places that I'm going to grow flowers, and then once the flowers are all grown, there we go. Little guys coming off. Now all we're doing for the next part is just adding more white. So let's get some more white on our brush into our pink, right? Got all this pink, and we want it definitely that next shade up brighter, right? Not our lightest shade, but our next shade up. And I want you to think about the sun and where it's shining. And you can add some more pink. And I have to leave the shadows. If I don't leave a little bit of the shadow, my little cluster of cherry blossoms won't look like it has shape. And I will be so sad. So I'll be like, I worked so hard to get them and they got no shapes. So that is your white and your pink, next shade up, and you're going to be putting this everywhere. We'll get the whole top tree done. I think it's so fun to do this. You just have no idea. Well, you will, because there's going to be a lot of this stuff. A lot of purple tree, a lot of pink tree. You'll be like, okay, you have painted so many woods and trees. We're good, covered. Let's do a still life. I'm just creating a little bit of color, but leaving these darks, like I've got a dark here, and I've got a little dark here. And I'm leaving some dark to make sure. Let's get back up to our top tree. I'm wandering away, John.
Oh, I'll wander up with you.
Wander up with me. I'm going to come up here, or that. And then under this one, and I'll leave the darkest part going off the canvas, I think. There we go. There's 3 layers of the pink. The dark shade, the mid shade, and the light shade. And then there's a little bit of branching, and then we're done. So we've only got, after this, one more light pink, which we kind of dust a couple places. Remember, don't take out all of your dark pink. Even on the petals you have going down, you can add a little bit of your highlight pink, and then it just gives them some pop. Which is what you wanted, right? I know you did. There we go. But I don't take out all my dark, do I? Leave some of it there. I'll come down and I'll clock back up and then hit the highlights again. Oh, it's starting to pop. I can see it on the canvas. Oh, I love it, I love it, I love it. Why take the step to the final light pink? Because it's what makes it feel like cherry blossoms, to me.
Mm-hmm.
That's why I did it. I don't like taking extra steps, so I try not to. Sometimes you take an extra step because, you know, your studio's dry.
Sometimes the extra step is worth the extra journey.
Sometimes the extra step is worth the extra journey. So I do my best not to include materials you don't need, or... I mean, it's not perfect, but I do my best. My best always. And you just do yours, and then we'll be good.
Yeah.
Coming down. Light shader pink. And now you can see how it's like starting to cover up over the tree branches. So it doesn't look like all streaky and weird.
Now, Neil says this painting never had an ugly stage.
Really? Oh, that is a compliment in acrylic. Because acrylic does want to go through a stage.
It does. It has its moments.
It's
like when it first wakes up in the morning.
Yeah.
It's got its crazy hair moment where it's like, hello, I haven't gotten my face on yet.
Are you making commentary?
No. I just
Are
see.
you making commentary on me? Crazy hair, haven't got my face on yet, everybody run.
I think I was anthropomorphizing and creating a character in my brain of a acrylic
tree situation.
I don't know, of an acrylic canvas waking up in the morning going, hello, and having its,
Tap that out. Yeah.
Funny face on.
We're just finding little spots that we highlight these little branches. Oh, that's looking so good.
I think so.
Let's come here. I love this part. You can tap these out and get kind
You're
of
as bad as me. You say that about all the parts.
Well, gosh, I really do though. I love painting. It gets me through. If I'm having a hard time, painting gets me through. If I'm having an amazing time, painting lets me celebrate. If I'm having trouble thinking, painting gets me there. I'm a little dependent on my painting habit. So thank you very much for facilitating that for me. Used to be much harder to say, hey, I've got to paint today. Now I'm like, oh, I got to totally paint today. I have to design. Just getting that lighter pink where we need it. Where we need it. A little bit right there. And I think we have some already on this tree. So what I'm going to do is, see this right here? I'm going to just kind of roll off the extra on my brush and just get the white on there. And now it's so light, but it's still distinctly pink. And it's okay if it's loosely mixed and some of it is still white because the blossoms will do that. I'm going to come right here and just start to make some definition by making little dashing marks. And this is like where the sunlight has caught this. And these flowers sparkle like gems. It's really quite extraordinary when you see it. I don't have like these particular trees, but we have like this type of tree in Houston.
Mm-hmm.
In the Arboretum and places. So I have an appreciation.
Pink fluffy trees?
Yeah, they last about a minute. We don't have conducive weather. It's like azaleas. Like an azalea garden, I hear in Japan, is a very long-term garden. In Houston, like, it's over in a second. Add some of that. Some of these guys. Not all of them. Like a lot of white on there because I'm right next to the sun there. So let's make sure we're... Yeah, we're doing? We try not to take out the colors that we put in before. And right here, right over the sun, try to be a little more delicate with like the stroke. Dip in water, grab some more pink. Keep going, because why wouldn't you?
Mm-hmm. We just need
so fun.
more pink flowers.
There can never be too many pink. I hope you guys are up for this, because seriously, this is the way the designs are going. And cuteness, and a shocking, inordinate amount of cuteness. I just have to get through some feels. So we're going to have some interesting romantic, high romanticism, and gothic art.
You feeling high romantic?
Well, yeah, but I got all gothic with it.
Oh.
Not Penny Dreadful gothic, more like,
Now, what I will say is, her artwork is not necessarily comment on our relationship. It doesn't mean that it isn't. It just isn't necessarily commentary.
No.
So sometimes you like stuff, but it tends to be on the happier side.
I do tend to be on the happier side.
We just get a lot of questions about that, I know.
Do you? Yeah.
Well, yeah, it's like they'll say, like, is everything okay with you guys? Because you painted a girl walking in the rain alone. Is Cinnamon feeling alone? No, it was just a cool painting design that you did.
Well, actually, that particular one, though, was about something we were going through. But not because John and I were having problems. John was really sick, and we were having to come back. And at that time, I just didn't know how to handle, like, just everything.
Right.
And so, like, that was just me getting out that feeling of being, like, in the storm and trying to see myself as strong enough to get through it. Sometimes I will paint what I wish to be.
Someday it's going to be really interesting to, like, tell the story of, like, from there to here.
Well, we did a little bit at Made It Con.
We talked about it a little bit. Yeah, we did.
Instead of doing a workshop, which we did later at like 3 in the morning.
So that's us. Well, that's you. If you come to Made It Con, you know exactly what you're getting into if you come to one of our events. If you don't, well, I don't know how to explain it. It's a lot like our live show.
There is no explanation.
Yeah.
There is none.
We do this.
Yeah.
With you in the room. That's pretty. I don't know what I'm doing.
You're doing great. I love you. I'm really glad I'm not where you are. I'm like all the time I think I'm so glad I'm the painter.
I feel the same way. I'm so glad I'm not having to stand out there.
What, when your canvas was like, I'm going to draw immediately. Forget blending. There will be no blending today. It's like, man, I've got glazing medium and everything, and it's still a hard day for this. I'm going to just work this at the little edge of this branch. So now, like, you can kind of see how our flowers have dimension. By the way, this works as a wall mural. I don't know why I'm always telling people that when it's like works as a wall mural.
I think because there's a secret part of you that's hoping to get a picture from a Sherpette who has muraled something.
They've done it.
I know.
So many times, awesome. And now I feel like I want to do a thing where we have like a release for tattoos. So people can get their tattoos done and not have to worry about it. If your tattoo artist says you've got to have a release, just come to us.
I'll put something on the website for that.
We'll get
I'm sure that on the labs page we can come up with something there for the tattoo artists who need to have the releases.
And say good tattoo artist who asked for an artist release. That's a good tattoo artist. That would be one of my things if I was looking for a tattoo artist that would make me feel like, oh, this is a good tattoo artist, is they asked for a release. Because I'd be like, they care about other artists.
I've heard that a lot of tattoo artists will not do something you carry in unless they know the providence of it. And
I appreciate, well, I think that they're such hardworking artists that it's, oh my gosh, we blossomed all the blossoms. Guys, we blossomed them all.
We did. That was so fast. We got to just talking, and then blossoms happened.
Now, I'm going to do this. Now, one of the things that you can do, and we're going to do just a few, I'm going to get my branch color again all mixed on here, right, which is my magenta into my phthalo turquoise, thinning the paint and getting it on the edge of my brush. And then I'm going to just go a couple places and add.
Hold on, let me get up there and see that.
Over.
Hold on, it's I want to see what you're doing up there. Okay.
So like you might come here and just add a little more.
Oh yeah, so you're putting some branches over the paint.
Yeah. Otherwise, it sometimes will feel like things are just floating.
Right.
But when you do this, then it feels a little bit like a tree. I know it's a fussy bit, but it does really make a difference.
Well, it's a good fussy bit.
And that little touch, I'm going to put a little right here. Can be so nice. Wonderful little touches of little branches that have come out and pot some flowers. I definitely think, you need a couple out of here. Right? And then you should have some right here. I'm actually going to take one here.
You're all focused.
I am. I'm just thinking about all the places that I could put my branches that I would enjoy seeing them.
You're branch focused.
I'm a little branch focused. Sorry, guys.
Yep. Everyone's like, did the sound go out?
No, I do stop talking if I'm really thinking. All right, I'm going to take this wonderful color.
Which one?
The phthalo turquoise that I have.
Yeah.
That I have. And I'm going to grab one of my signing brushes. I'll grab my monogram liner. It's literally what this is for. To make your signature. And I'm going to find a little spot. Add a bit of a signature to the composition.
Wow,
oh my gosh, guys. Sorry about the slow blend.
No, that was awesome. I think everybody really enjoyed seeing that.
But yeah, hopefully it's informative. Sometimes when things go wrong in a live show, it's like the best thing that happens because I have to solve it right there in front of everybody. And then it's like, oh, that's how you would do that if your brush was like, sometimes this will happen. Like you'll be painting outside somewhere and your brush is like stuck to your canvas. And you're like, what happened? And you're like, oh, I'm in Arizona. Okay. So this desert's really hard. I'm going to dry brush this whole desert. You know. Be good to yourselves and be good to each other. And I want to see you at the easel really soon. Bye-bye.